So today I will talk to you about four innovative architects of the last century. So for starters, I would like for you to look at this picture. This is beautiful. A lot of people and art theorists consider that Gothic cathedrals were the most beautiful type of architecture we have had up to this point, and it's a show of true human artwork. Nevertheless, we don't feel like this anymore because we can't. It's literally impossible. Nobody will give enough money for us to do this. There are not enough skilled workers to do this, like artisans to do this. And beyond that, it just does not make any sense to keep building this way. Because architect, after all, is a result of its context. So as we can see, this building, Gothic Cathedral, of course it was made to praise God. But nowadays people don't have that level of faith. So what do we praise now, and what's worth building something this level of monumental? After Gothic churches, we had palaces, then we had libraries, museums, and now we have work offices or buildings for companies. So our new God, in some way, is our economy. So first, I will take you through this slide presentation through the 20th century, taking these four architects. We will see each one in detail and each of these works. But I picked them not necessarily based on the date of their projects, but because they do embody a certain type of train of thought or reason why they did this. So as I mentioned, it's always related to context. At the start of the 20th century, we had the industrialization, which was quite relevant, so a lot of people needed to work and move to the cities, and we had to ask ourselves, how do we build for poor people and really fast, but most importantly with good living conditions. And then again, this was also related to the fact that we were going to war, and that's why people were poor. And moreover, it called for us to have a sense of nationalism, and that's why we asked ourselves, how do we build authentic buildings in a world where everything now is pre-made? So I picked Antonio Gaudí as a great example of how to do this, because in Barcelona he really did with his style. He had this nationalism towards the place, Catalonia, and he was quite innovative, not only because he took local aspects or part of the culture, like in La Casa Batlló. We can see the mosaics here that was traditional from the place, but also the forms. They were a study of nature combined with patterns of mathematics to create his morphology, and most importantly, his model making, which in Espanol would be maquetas, for Chileans. They're not just a representation of what would be built in the future, but he made them as a study of physics. So you can see the columns here, they kind of look like trees, and that's because he based himself on nature to make all of these kinds of structures, and the use of color, and all of that was because he tried to convey himself or position himself as the architect of God by using nature as his main inspiration. I don't know what that is, but we'll leave it there. Now, of course, we already mentioned the start of the century, but what happened a little years later? We had psychoanalysis by Sigmund Freud. So the idea of happiness that you have is a new concept. People in the past did not want to be happy, they did not live for the pursuit of happiness. That's something that modernism created for us. Okay, so psychoanalysis was quite important for architects to try to comprehend how do we build for people to be happier, to have healthier lifestyles, and more importantly, more than just psychology, psychoanalysis, these ideas that are related to psychology, to philosophy and art, vanguardism like the Bauhaus, and politics were all mixed together on how do we look for this new pursuit of happiness. That's our new goal. So I put Le Corbusier. A lot of you might have heard of him. If you have an architecture friend, just say something related to Le Corbusier and they'll flip over, I swear. This building is La Ville Savoie. It looks very simple, but at the moment it was quite impressive because the use of pillars, open spaces and floor plans, gardens on the rooftops were new ideas that he implemented, and thanks to him we had them. And also society tried to make sense now, so we tried to rationalize everything and leave ornament behind, but instead he tried to be innovative with the use of concrete, the way we see right here. And it's not because they're lazy and they don't want to paint it, it's because the art of using concrete relates to modulation, patterns, etc., so we can make these great buildings. It's a part of an artistic technique. Then we have Richard Neutra. with specifically works on this idea of happiness. His buildings are quite simple. The elements are very thin, and it's because, as you see in this picture, nature is the most important aspect. Architecture is a secondary part, and so his buildings, like the house you see right here, which was built for a very famous doctor called Lovell. That's why it's called the Lovell's house. The circulation is peripheral, so you will have to be losing weight all the time you live in the house. And you would also have exposure to sunlight and nature, so you would be happier and have a better mental and physical health. And on the last half, then you see right here is Theodore Roosevelt, signing the New Deal. So architects that were very famous came here to Latin America and other parts of the world too, to try to show us how do we build for modernism. And things such as international congresses, expositions, like this is the first architectural exposition for modern architecture in the MoMA from New York. They tried to implement this international style, so the new challenge was how do we create an international style, but it's also authentic for each culture, each place, and each environment. And I picked Genso Tange, which is Japanese. This is the National Gymnasium for the Tokyo Olympics. And this is quite innovative. I did not put a picture of the building because this is a cut section. And the lines you see right there is because this whole roof that helps us have this huge monumental space in the middle are suspended by tension, and it's all made of concrete. So it's quite high-edge technology to make this type of buildings, and also how to implement and make a mix of traditional Japanese architecture and the international style. Like this is a model of his own house, and these lines you see right here, they're called shogi in Japanese, and they're a way to work with wood to try to protect yourself from sunlight, to make windows. It's a style that meets with what I previously mentioned, which is the concrete, the open floor space, the open space in the lower plans, and all of that contributes to this idea of modernity. So for all of this, new architects try always to use natural materials. We also try to take things from local culture and try to adapt them and use technology to help us make them faster and cheaper for our well-being. And that's an interest in architecture. Thanks for listening.